coming back after lunch. I know I have the difficult task. I don't know if you can hear me properly. I think this is better. Okay. Oh, hold on. Yeah, hope I'm audible now. I understand I have the difficult task of giving a presentation right after lunch. So what we're going to start off with is a couple of exercises. No, I'm just kidding. Almost kidding. I'm going to ask you a quick question. How many in the audience right now are using an Android phone or tablet? Yeah. So the ETTelecom team do take a picture of that. That's great. That's great validation. Throughout the sessions that you saw in the morning today, right? And I think it's great sometimes when you have such amazing sessions and then you have to, come after that. So many of the people talked about the use case, right? We all talked about use cases. Ajay talked about the use case for remote workforce usage. There was so much discussion about 5G red cap, how that's going to pan out. Mr. Marikda talked about the scale and the speed of innovation which has happened since the Apollo 16 mission, right? And so many of the fireside chats mentioned about the underlying infrastructure, the innovation that's required, but ultimately the use case. Android sits at the use case layer level. And interestingly, we have been playing a very major role in enterprise. I know most of you understand Android as the ubiquitous smartphone or the tablet which you use today at your home, at your office, or at your business. But Android is much more. And especially in a 5G world, it becomes even much more. This one's not moving. Can somebody check the ticker? I'm not sure if this... Okay, cool. So while we talk about 5G, we talk about mobile, you have to recognize that mobile does not always mean phone. Oh, this is a little difficult. Oops. And not all mobile endpoints are mobile. You have handheld scanners, you have point-of-sale devices, you have signages, medical instruments, robots, kiosks. And in all of these different form factors where 5G or connectivity is used, the form factors are blurring. And even handhelds, by the way, are not just handhelds, they are much more than that. In each of these cases, right, you had Mr. Sharat Sinha talk about security at the endpoint, right? Which is key on the use case layer. And every connection is an endpoint. And for last mile outcomes, endpoint mobility has become critical with two use cases. How many of you seen, I'm sure everybody would have traveled by trains. If there's somebody who's not traveled by train, that person should definitely raise their hands. But if you have traveled by train, have you seen the ticket travel examiner with tablets in some of those trains, right? Yes. So when you see those tablets, it's actually Android Enterprise in action. Because Android Enterprise, if you look at the different use cases, there is employee coverage, there's productivity for key frontline workers, and there are unique use cases. Your future workplace starts with Android Enterprise. And what we do with Android at the OS layer itself and provide it to OEMs to build on top of is to provide mobile supercomputing powers. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mayank Sharma. I take care of partnerships for Android in enterprise for South Asia and Southeast Asia. And I'm here to tell you about Android, but also break the mold in terms of your understanding on how that's used. See, Android provides a device for every use case in budget across any forms of connectivity. You take smartphones, you take tablets, rugged devices, kiosk form factors, point of sale, and signages. Now you may be thinking, well, yes, we have seen some Android form factors, some of them from some APAC-based manufacturers. There is a difference between the open source Android and the certified Android or the GMS Android that Google provides. because it has a certification based on key security layers which we provide on top of that. If you check out our booth, which we have partnered with Brilliant, who are our silver partners, you will see one of those POS devices, wherein you are not dependent on the manufacturer to work on any troubleshooting issues, because they customize the Android as per their capabilities. Android, of course, is open. We foster innovation, but we also provide a certification and which uses what we call as Google Mobile Services, and I'll come to that in a bit. And as I showed this, right, so just this, by the way, is the use of Android smartphones connecting to a monitor or to a tablet, and then you have a second screen readily available. And all the use cases that I talked about, employee coverage, flexibility for key executives, frontline workers, unique use cases, right? All of them are available with Android platform features. I was just showcasing the separation that we're able to provide. If you are bringing your personal phone to your enterprise and want to access enterprise applications, we are able to provide a personal and work separation like none other. Now, security is what I wanted to talk about a lot here, and I'll also come to some of the elements about telecom and connectivity. Just to tell you, we protect devices with built-in hardware, software, and OS level security. Some of the top government departments across the world use Android devices. There is an underlying perception built because it's an open innovation, but open innovation has also fostered much better security. We defend against malware with Google Play Protect. So Google Play Protect, by the way, scans 125 billion applications on a daily basis. We use our underlying machine learning algorithm and other signals from the device to protect your device from malware. Fun fact, if you are using Android Enterprise and you have Google Play Protect, you are more likely to be hit by lightning than to get a malware on your device. And I'll come to the actual specifics because I know I have limited time. But just in terms of how Android itself is rated and certified by the world at large, we come across far better than our competition. And this has been proven by different research reports and analysts. And this is the number which I was talking about. I know 0.005%, we all love numbers, we're in India, but what does that really mean? So that's what I was trying to talk to you about. Google Play Protect also is important because it's not just our signals that we're looking at. We look at signals from top security product vendors and providers like Lookout, Trend Micro, and McAfee. We use those signals to protect your device and all kinds of devices, as I mentioned, across form factors. We also protect devices because ultimately you're using 5G to access internet, to access websites, to access web pages. 5 billion devices today are using Google Safe Browsing. And just FYI, I couldn't show this as part of the presentation, but I will be happy to show this to you in private during the booth. We provide far better protection than our competitors in terms of safe browsing. Phishing attacks, you might have seen those, right? Again, all of these will come into much larger effect with 5G because 5G is basically giving you access to easily consumable data right in your hands, and you have to make sure that your access or your systems from which you are accessing these systems is protected. We have a multi-layer approach to security. We also look at network level security. Just to tell you from an enterprise perspective, we can, for example, have the capability to have VPN to be always on. We also obviously provide a data protection, but on top of that, we provide device signals. For example, let's say for a device, you go to GAFA market, you get that device routed out and try to bring it into enterprise, right? At that level itself, the signals from the device can be used to stop access to an enterprise application. This is easily deployable. As I was mentioning, in terms of using your development engines to develop applications across form factors, it's the same developer you can use to develop an application for a signage, and the same application you can use on a headless display. So So headless displays are where there is no display as such attached. These are docks, but ultimately it's Android at play. They can be gateways, they can be routers, they can be any kind of endpoints which you can manage with Android. Easy deployment and management for simplified IT. Just last year, there was a large education project which were done by a lot of state governments. Before some of the key elements, which is what we call as zero touch, were used, you actually had to bring in all these different endpoints in a warehouse like this, connect them to a router, multiple warehouses, multiple Wi-Fi networks, obviously very good for the telecom providers, but a lot of time taken to get those devices provisioned, boxed, and then unboxed, and then again dispatched back to the actual user. I was part of a project where we did 30,000 devices in a span of 5 weeks, but that involved 20 warehouse rooms with routers. Last year, we deployed 1 million devices in a span of 1 week. When we say deployed, these devices are dispatched right from the factory to the end user, who open it, connect it, and it's ready to be used. That use case, for example, was an education use case. We have similar use cases in enterprise. The Anganwadi workers today, all of them use smartphones. All of them use Android smartphones. Many of them are actually customized and deployed using our technology today. It is optimized for productivity, as I mentioned. I'm sure you're one of the folks, who often take out your phone at night, look for their manager's mail, but also try to look at Facebook also. So we have to prioritize, right? Should I look at Facebook? Should I look at manager's mail? So with Work Profile, we offer that capability to not get a notification from your manager. So you can pick, right? And this is what the Work Profile is, right? On your current phones, right now, any kind of phone which is Android 8 and above, you have the capability to separate your enterprise as well as personal applications. The reason why that's important is because Work Profile on its own, as this deployment progresses, will use its own data quantum to consume that kind of data. And we are looking at opportunities to see if 5G slicing can be used for such use cases, but obviously also other use cases anchored on Android. We are innovative by design. Across form factors, as I mentioned, we also have accessibility features built in for visually impaired. And these are some of the many use cases that we have deployed globally, of which I've just highlighted a few. For example, IFL Finance, a major asset management and financial management services company, use Zero Touch to deploy tablets across their front line, across more than 2,000 branches and 17,000 workers. McLaren Racing, I don't know how many of you are fans of racing, but their entire stack, if you look at how racing happens, every second counts, and the phones and tablets are actually used at the pit stop to give remote view of what's happening, analyze what's going better, what's going well and what's going wrong, and immediately use that for better productivity from a racing standpoint. And finally, Leroy Merlin, which is a large Home Depot kind of organization which retails furnishings and other stuff. There we deployed a lot of these devices. Now I'll come to AI, and I know I have limited time left. I know there's we can talk a lot of AI. I think we can probably do the countdown of like how many times people mentioned AI. What I'll quickly sum up is AI, of course, is being used on cloud, and it's available on Android with Circle to Search and many other features with Gemini. Just to tell you, the most advanced model that we have, which is called Gemini Advanced, it's able to take 1 million tokens. Mahabharata itself is 1.8 million words. This, and I encourage you to check this out, somebody has basically developed an application which is called the Mahabharata chatbot on top of our Gemini cloud and infrastructure, wherein you can talk to that particular bot, ask questions, like who was the father of Kashyap? Even I don't know. But again, just because of the capabilities, you can use that. And I know I have limited time, I have to keep on saying that, but I'll give you an example which we saw live happen when I did one event in Indonesia. Bahasa was launched as a language where you could transcribe. Somebody was giving the whole speech in Bahasa. It was recorded by the phone. It was transcribed then and there. and the summary was generated right then and there. And these are all models sitting on the device, by the way. So this is the capability of Android. So think about it. Stay tuned for Android 15. Android open source is already out there. There are some key provisions about eSIMs, eSIM provisioning from an enterprise perspective, which we have baked into open source Android. And we hope to have that rolled out in the GA version of Android 15 as well. There's a lot that you can do with Android, of course. I'm just approaching time, but I'll quickly cover some of these. You can even manage ultra-wideband capabilities, controls. For example, do you want to limit anybody to connect ultra-wideband? So ultra-wideband is basically when you walk close to a car and suddenly the mirror automatically opens. That's kind of using ultra-wideband. But of course, there has much more implications. The S Pen, which I have in my S20 Ultra, but I can't show that right now. I am anchored on time. That also uses ultra-wideband. This is also important. Some of the smartphones still provide you to get 2G connectivity. Now, in an enterprise scenario, that becomes a challenge because that is an unsafe protocol right now in terms of use of higher-end applications as we speak today. So you can disable 2G support for enterprise applications, especially on null-ciphered connections. And again, we provide an easy way to get access to applications via passkeys, which has been globally rolled out. I'm sure you must be somehow or the other using it. And finally, now that I've come to the presentation, somebody said it very nicely, I think it was probably Neil, that we started with storage, we moved to compute, and then now it's cloud. And of course, that's accelerating with AI, right? Now, in an AI and mobile-first world, with specifically the kind of 5G use cases that we are already seeing and we plan to see, right? It's important to consider what all AI you can do on the device, on the cloud, and of course, with the right protocol choice in the 5G world, right? So that's time for me. I hope this was helpful. Please do check out all our different kind of form factors that we have in Android at our booth, and hope you had a good session today. Thank you.